wanted to, on this one, get a little bit more back to basics, or a little bit more raw, kind of almost like what we did with the first record, the way that we wrote that and the process involved.
We pretty much started talking about the third record like right after the second one. It's not that we were unhappy with the second one and wanted to start new or do anything like that.
The third record, I think even when we were doing the first one, the third one was always in our mind too. It's like that was going to be the one for us, I think, the Demon Hunter record.
We kind of had talked about and toyed around with the idea of getting a little more technical on it and having it be faster.
We did want to step it up a little bit more in the technical aspect. We added another guitar player, actually, a lead guitar player, and helped out immensely with leads and solos, and I think that he's added so much to the music that we've written, and it just takes up another notch.
We just love writing and love being in the studio and love putting out material, and just the idea of being in a band that has like a pretty substantial catalog of records is just a really cool idea to us.
I think a lot of bands, it does take like 2 records and you kind of find your way, and personally speaking, Ryan and I have never been in bands that have actually done a third record, so it's always been 1, 2, or 1. We're just excited about doing a third album, just everything about it. From the artwork to the music, I think it's the definitive Demon Hunter. This record, we really wanted to harken back to the days of when we loved metal.
Our major influences come from mid and early 90s, like Roadrunner bands, Machine Head,
Sepultura, Fear Factory,
Prong, a lot of Pantera,
Prong.
The stuff that we grew up on listening to that really kind of stood the test of time with us, the stuff that we still listen to and listen to a lot.
Those are our favorite bands. We're definitely from the hardcore scene. We were in hardcore bands, a lot of people know that. But while we were listening to hardcore and just being immersed in that, we were also, listening to this metal, and it was almost like, someday it'd be rad to do a band like this, great production, great packaging, the whole 9 yards.
That kind of stood the test of time and something we knew we wouldn't get tired of doing. And also something that we felt like would fill a void in particular, like with Christian music. After Living Sacrifice had broken up, there's bands that are like hardcore, and there's noisy noisecore bands, and there's screamo bands, and there's hard rock bands. There's all these kind of like somewhere around the metal area kind of bands, but there's no like straight metal bands that are that have melody, like all those bands that are out there. There's not a ton of options for like Christian kids who want to hear a Christian band that does Machine Head or Pantera style like melody mixed with some with screaming vocals and stuff like that. And that's like what we grew up on and what we loved, and it was like we were kind of wanting to give that to the kids, to give them something that they could get stoked on.
And that's kind of what Demon Hunter is for us. And I think what this record is, I think it's definitely like a throwback to a lot of those old bands. And a lot of those bands either aren't around anymore, aren't doing what they used to do. And I don't think there's a lot of bands doing what Demon Hunter's doing now. So anyways, I think just incorporating the same DH formula, the way that we write songs, adding lead parts, and just getting a little bit more technical and a little bit more heavy, but keeping the ballads. I think from the beginning, Demon Hunter's been a band that's had ballads, and we wanted to keep doing that. We actually wanted to do more of them, and those end up being a lot of people's favorite songs, and ours too. So as far as this record, I think it encompasses everything that everyone loves about Demon Hunter.
The whole record was pretty much written between the hours of 6 and 9 a.m., about 3 days a week for about a month and a half.
Since Ryan and I do have professional lives as designers, we have to utilize our time well. And so we actually wrote the triptych from the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. before work. We go in the studio and just start writing. I had riffs, Ryan had riffs, we put them together, put it down on GarageBand, and that's how the triptych was written, you know, in the morning during like coffee hour.
This time, for the first time, we actually used GarageBand to like demo the songs. Before, we just used like a little radio cassette player. I mean, totally ghetto. We've always done it like that. The first two records, I would sit in my apartment and just like on acoustic, I would write everything acoustic and just record it, little parts, and like it would be really scattered and really like, we'd just kind of Frankenstein songs together when we got together. With the triptych, we definitely wrote a lot different, mainly because we took that step into actually demoing stuff on like a program, like a computer program, GarageBand, and like we laid it all out like really structured with second guitar parts and little harmonies and little leads, and I actually put drums to all the songs on the demos so that when we sent it to our drummer, he'd know like kind of the structure that we were looking to go for and time signatures and stuff like that. So in terms of that, we were a lot more prepared with this record, and I think it shows.
Cowbell, Will Ferrell style.
Like this cohesive sound. He knows what we like. He knows what we want to do. We can basically hand over the controls to him with ideas and like everything from melodies and concepts behind that kind of thing and structure of songs to loops and effects and little things that we add here. He pretty much already knows what we're gonna like and what we're gonna go for, and very rarely I don't think actually ever has he done anything we've been like, yikes, we're not too into that. Pretty much everything he does, it's like, that's killer, we love it. With Not I, it was, there's definitely some like traditional Demon Hunter groove-oriented riffage and some of the, the kind of anthematic chorus thing, almost like Beheaded had on the last record. I'm not gonna be like this set of people, we're set apart, like as Christians and as, young people, like, guys that are kind of metal and punk or whatever, you're just set apart from this whole other side of like society that is, looks at you, views you in a certain way, whether you're, Christian or, just like a Hesher or whatever, like you're kind of looked at in a certain way. And it's basically like an anthem saying like, here's a list of things or a list of issues that, that I see in these people that, judge me or whatever, that I'm just not. Like, and I'm just taking a stand right now and saying like, all these things, not I. I'm like, none of that. So it's just kind of like an anthem to just kind of stoke you out on being different and being like kind of against the grain. Ribcage is basically about just getting wrapped up in the negative parts of life and the like immoral debauchery and just, everything from pornography to alcoholism and things like that, and just being so addicted and so afflicted with those things that you're willing to basically hurt anyone that's around you in order to keep going with that, and just how ridiculous and tragic that can be.
You gotta play Fire to My Soul, gotta play the Fire to My Soul.
I want to play it here.
In the bigger.
In the lyrics, do all these things, that you're so set on doing, and break through the rib cage and tear the heart out of everyone that you love, because that's essentially what you're doing. So if you're totally content in doing that, like that's essentially, where your motives are. If that's like the most important thing to you, then you're gonna end up hurting a lot of people, and that's the bottom line. Fire to My Soul is a song that's kind of written from the viewpoint of a stubborn non-believer that's kind of like doing anything they can to ignore or like shut off their mind and their emotions and their life to any kind of spiritual side whatsoever. And I tried to write it like with a little bit of kind of prodding those people that, you know, that might think a certain way into like, are you really putting a lot of thought into, you know, just completely shutting off that part of your life? I mean, you know, it's a pretty important thing, you know, like your life after you die could be one way or it could be another, and to just completely like throw that out of your, you know, your mind while you're here on Earth is kind of like tragic, to not really like put some thought into that and to make sure that like you know exactly what's going on and to do some research and do some finding out and some soul searching.
Getting letters from soldiers during war, having photos of them with our shirts and stuff, that it's huge for us. And knowing that like we're like giving them some kind of glimpse into the future or hope, it's a huge thing.
Regardless of what your view is on the war or how wrong or, you know, who's, you know, making the decisions or anything like that, being supportive of those people that are over there and showing them that they, you know, they do serve a purpose in the things that they do, whether you know, whether you respect our leaders or not. I mean, there's been wars in the past, and there's been people that complain about those wars and protests and everything like that. And, you know, that nothing's new under the sun as far as that's concerned. And, you know, we just wanted to give something back to those soldiers that were out there actually like standing in the storm and like every day, like going up against, you know, God knows what. Like every single day, they were just probably scared out of their minds, but doing it because they, you know, they cared about it and doing it because they felt like it was important. And there's so many people in the music industry, especially, that I feel make them, you know, probably make those people feel really unimportant and feel like they're wasting their time. And that's just something that, like, to me just totally sucks. And so we have a lot of fans that have written us from over there, a lot of guys and girls who have been over there that have really like appreciated our music while they've been over there. And we just wanted to, I mean, we've gotten so much of that, so much of those fans that we were just like, we've got to do something, we've got to give back to them. So that was a song that we had thought of probably one of the first ideas for songs that we'd thought of in this record. We were just like, we've got to do something, give something back to them so that, you know, if the chance that the war's still going on when we do this record, when it comes out, and they have it over there, they have something that they know is for them and that they can get stoked on and just not feel like they're not there for, you know, for no good reason. Deteriorate is basically about, without sounding too humorous, about just getting old and like not having like that youthful vigor that like you did when you were a kid, and being able to like roll down hills and go crazy and like, you know, just have that energy and that kind of invincible, you know, feeling. It's about like literally like, I mean, I'm not that old, you know, I'm in my mid-20s, but I've felt the effects of not, you know, not treating my body like I should. Like when you get to a certain age, it's like you really start to realize, wow, like, I mean, this is what it feels like to like actually get older. Like my body's not working as well as it used to. Like it's essentially like, you know, it's not as lighthearted as that. It's, you know, it's kind of depressing, you know, like the way that I wrote the lyrics are kind of depressing. It's like I don't work like I used to, and not just my body, but my mind and things like that. Things aren't as easy anymore, and like it kind of feels like everything is like deteriorating. Even though I'm kind of young and I don't really have much to complain about, I still like feel like I'm kind of wearing down and wearing thin a little bit, and it's just kind of about that. Okay.
This is all the love my spirit can give. There is not a reason more to live.
Okay, that's fine, yeah. It's almost kind of a two-part song, the way that it's structured. Like right at the bridge, it kind of switches into this really long outro, kind of different part of a song. And that to me is like kind of the wrap-up of the album, of like the song and the album as a whole. And that, in a nutshell, is basically about how it's this feeling of, you know, if this is all that I am, like on this earth, if this is like all like that I'm capable of, like emotionally and physically and spiritually and stuff, it's kind of depressing to think that we're only capable of like a certain amount of giving in terms of like emotion and spiritual, in our spiritual life and things like that, because it seems like, you know, there's a certain point at which we give, and then the rest is just pretty much just living for ourselves or being selfish, or you know doing things that are on our agenda and things like that. And like, you know, I think everyone struggles with that. I totally struggle with just doing things that are on my agenda and like on my time and whatever I need to do for myself, and having to stop and think and like, I mean, what am I giving? What am I doing for like my wife or my friends or my family or things like that? Because I'm constantly just thinking like Ryan time, and like that song's almost about like, if this is all that I have, you know, if this is like the height of my capabilities, you know, just like that's just kind of seems worthless to me, you know. It's pretty self-defeating for the most part, but it's also just kind of a self-realization that I need to like put a little more effort into into giving parts of me, you know. It's not just self-defeating just so you can hear me whine about it, or just so kids can sit and whine about it with me. It's so that you can go, okay, this is what's wrong with me. This is what I'm going to do to change it. So that's basically the wrap-up of the album, is just saying, okay, here's all this stuff that I just sang about, all this stuff that we talked about, you know, agree with it, don't agree with it, whatever. But, you know, if there's anything that you take from it, and if there's anything like that you can relate to, then take that and, you know, hopefully do something better with yourself, and like, you know, take heed to like maybe some of the things that I've like gone through or had to deal with, or things like that. You know, maybe I speak, you know, for some of the people that have gone through these same things, and they can go, hey, you know, I've done that too, I've dealt with that. That's good to know that someone else is dealing with it, someone else is like striving just like I am. I mean, I'm not like, yeah, these things are in my past and I'm like totally perfect now, I'm fine. Like I got through all that because I wrote a song about it. It's like I'm like on the trail to like recovering from like all this stuff, and like I'm growing in like a million different ways, really slowly too. So it's like I'm on that trail, just like, you know, a lot of the people that listen to the music are on that trail.
You want the good life! You break your back! You snap your fingers! You snap your neck!
Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck is a song that we've always just loved. I mean, we've had that record, you know, Cleansing, since it came out in '93. Huge fans of that record, like back when we used to, you know, like I said, when we used to listen to all those old early and mid 90s bands that like totally got us stoked on metal. Prong was definitely one of them. And Tommy Victor, just his guitar playing and his voice were something that had just always like stuck out as like this really unique kind of, you know, like we talked about like the whole stop-start kind of metal thing, like the choppy guitar work and things like that, and just the tones that are on that record, and the grittiness of the vocals and stuff. It was just always something that had totally stoked us out. And you know, we've loved that song and that record for years, and we always wanted to cover a song. And we've gone through all these different ideas on what to cover and like this and that. And you know, I've always kind of wanted to cover some Depeche Mode, and it's just like, everyone's to cover the Depeche Mode song. We're just gonna end up covering a song that like someone else has covered.
Seconds trap from my hands, wash up moments apart.
And we tried to do something that was, you know, that we, as far as we knew, had never been covered before, and something that we also felt like was probably at the time and still currently is kind of a little underrated, kind of went under the radar, and a lot of these new metalhead fans probably don't even know about. So we wanted to kind of bring that, maybe revive it and bring it back to life and be like, you need to go buy this record, you know, you need to go back to the roots, and this is the stuff that kind of fuels what Demon Hunter is. So it was kind of like giving back to them for like, you know, stoking us out on metal back then, and like kind of bringing it back for these kids and hoping that they can get stoked on it and then go back and see, you know, all the stuff that we got like, you know, totally grew up on. We definitely kicked around the idea of just calling it 3, mainly because of records like Danzig 3 and Led Zeppelin 3 and just the classics that were, you know, where they just numbered the albums. That was something that was like really cool to us, and like we loved all those bands. And then Slipknot put out Volume 3, like right after we had talked about that and thought about that. And by now it's old news, but at the time it was kind of like, well, there goes the idea of calling it 3. Not that it would be exactly the same, but it's pretty close, and since we've had people compare us to them before, it's like, that's the last thing we needed, just to like, it seemed like we ripped off their name, so. Instead of calling it 3, we kind of did some research into other things that kind of represented 3, and we found the word the triptych, which kind of means a series of 3, specifically sometimes like 3 art pieces or a series of 3 artistic manifestations or something like that. So, you know, every record that we do, we want to, you know, it's fairly conceptual. Not that the songs follow any kind of storyline or anything like that, but we like to put like a lot of thought and meaning and like artistic expression into like everything that we do, whether it's like a photo shoot or a video or anything like that. We kind of try and go the extra mile whenever we can to make it pretty thoughtful and I guess deep, you could say.
As a lot of people know, Ryan and I we have a professional life where we're graphic designers and we work in the music industry, where we do CD packaging and just artwork for bands all day long. And Demon Hunter is an outlet in so many ways for us, musically and artistically, when it comes to the visual aspect of it. It's always been an importance from the very beginning. We literally have kind of formulated how everything is going to go with Demon Hunter. The first album's going to be self-titled. They're going to be, you know, there's from the artwork to the music, it's all been thought about. It hasn't just kind of happened. So it's a way for us to express ourselves in a different way. Last album, we had kind of the amazing photo shoot where we're out in the forest, kind of with the coffin in the car, and we, you know, spent a lot of time thinking about that. Every record that we ever do is going to be in some form the Demon Hunter logo.
And we kind of plan to repeat that on every album cover, almost in the way that, like, as cheesy as it sounds, like Chicago, the band, every single album cover had like that Chicago logo done in a different way.
And on this album we have 3 different versions of it, and it's kind of like our way to go outside of our professional life and hire someone else that we look up to actually to do work for Demon Hunter.
We got Dan Seagrave on board, who'd done work for everyone from like Morbid Angel to Malevolent Creation, Suffocation, bands like that. Just a total amazing, fine artist. And we thought about, well, why don't we incorporate 3 different kind of animals, or I guess not technically animals since one of them's a spider, but 3 different animals like on the covers and have it be like, have them set apart even more so, because we were thinking, just having 3 different looking logos is kind of like, I don't know if that's set apart enough. So we wanted something to be really, really specifically different. So we thought of a snake and spiders and, ravens or crows. So those are basically the only art direction that we gave Dan, and he just kind of ran with it. And he's delivered like to the nth degree.
Even from the photo shoot down to the cover, we just spent a lot of time in conceptualizing it, thinking about it, and we try to one-up ourselves every single time, and we hope that we pull it off. So it's definitely very important to us. We're not on the road all the time because of our professional lives, and I think that in some way we kind of try to make up for the lack of us appearing in your city. There's going to be something amazing, the music's going to hold strong, it's going to be on its own, and and the artwork's going to be amazing. And we just kind of want an entire package for the fan, and that's kind of what we put into it. As brothers, we work together closely on artwork, on music, and growing up, we never really thought that, neither one of us thought that it would kind of evolve into this, where we're actually working together. We're 4 years apart in age, which I feel like is almost the maximum for like brothers to be super close,
There was a big period of our life, obviously, when we were younger, where I had my friends, he had his friends. We didn't really hang out much. And then like in our teens, we kind of started seeing things like the same. We started getting into the same kind of music. And then like this kind of post-high school time for us was like this time when we really started seeing things like on the same plane. We got really into hardcore, and like his friends kind of became my friends and vice versa. And it was just like, it was this big like hardcore, group of kids from, Elk Grove where we grew up. And that's when we really kind of like, the age difference kind of just like evened out. And we just kind of like we're on that same level. There was no like, that separation between the sibling kind of ages that there usually is.
As far as the other brothers in rock and roll, you kind of just see how they are on stage or in interviews, and you don't really know how they get along or kind of like how they grew up or whatever. But I kind of think that we have a great, healthy relationship, and it's I don't think that either one of us would do Demon Hunter without the other. So.
Oasis is one of my favorite bands, but like they're obviously the complete extreme of like brothers not getting along and like kind of feuding at all times. We're obviously the polar opposite of that.
It's literally a dream come true to like, to be able to make a living doing art, design, and music with my brother, who I think is, he's amazing. I kind of think that everything he does when it comes to artwork is amazing, and we both like work off each other and get stoked off each other. I get inspired by him, and I think likewise. And when it comes to writing music, the way that the ideas flow, sometimes we'll like write something together and we'll look at each other and be like, I can't believe we just came up with that in 5 minutes. The song's pretty much done. And it's, honestly, we feel that it's a God-given talent. We don't know, we just always kind of give him the glory as far as like where it comes from. Because in the last 5 years, some amazing things have happened within the realm of Demon Hunter and the other jobs that we have, and working together is amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and it's inspiring all at the same time. I get to work with like a guy that artistically and everything I look up to, and it's to be part of the family. Our parents were all very close, and my parents are obviously stoked about it, and it's just a cool thing. You know, no really words can describe it.
We have this kind of like a Siamese twin connection in terms of like what we like and what we think works. It's like, you know, I don't think there's anything that I could write that he would be like, you know, other than maybe real little details. I don't think there's anything that either of us would write or be into or want to do on a record or kind of want the band to be that the other person would kind of disagree with. We're like really on the same wavelength in terms of like what our goals are and what we want for the band in terms of the music, in terms of the vision, in terms of the art, like everything that we do. Like we're like, yep, that's exactly what we want. And we never really have to like, you know, one person comes up with an idea and it's basically just like the other person just is like, yep, that's perfect, let's do it. Not to say that we're not different in any ways. We're actually like, in a lot of personality ways, we're a lot different. People that don't know us probably think that we're like twins and we like wear matching shirts and stuff, but we like, well, sometimes we do wear matching shirts but on accident. But it's, you know, there are definitely differences between us, like in terms of personality.
Ryan's more quiet, calm, reserved. I'm kind of the opposite way a little bit. So I think together we make a pretty good team.
We're really on the same plane.
I mean, when it comes to ideas and concepts, especially with Demon Hunter and with Asterisk, our other career, it's almost like, you know, we're finishing each other's sentences sometimes. You know, we'll have an idea or like there'll be an album title and we're like, you know, what kind of concept can we do for this certain band with this album title? And it's like in 5 minutes we'll be like, it'll click and we'll be like, that's it, dude, that they're gonna go for it, you know, that's the one. And with Demon Hunter, it's like you finish a riff, you're like, that's it, you know, and we just look at each other and kind of like, I don't know, it's all mental, you know, we just look at each other and we're like, we know it. You know, back in the day, when we go to shows together, we watch hardcore bands that we love, metal bands that we love. We both look at each other at the same time during the breakdowns or whatever, like, oh, you know, that's the part, like, that's the sick part. Watching Zayo, we just, you know, it's just kind of been going on for a while. It's like we kind of do the same thing now with our careers. Like we know when something's right. With Demon Hunter, it started off as an idea, and you know, kind of us joking around one night, like, dude, that would be rad to start something like this, where we're taking influences from bands that we love and turning it into this little project. And honestly, when we went into the studio the first time to do Demon Hunter, we didn't think it'd be anything more than that, just a project. We're super proud of it. You know, we'd always loved melodies and hooky choruses and loved so many different kind of bands, from British bands to some pop bands to pop punk to metal. I mean, we love everything. We wanted to kind of obviously keep metal and heavy, but bring in a melodic aspect to it. And so when the first record came out, kind of blew us away as far as like what the fans were thinking. It steamrolled into this thing that we had no control over anymore. It's like, you know what, we kind of got to go out on the road now. We want to support this band, support this record, and we wanted to show fans that, you know, Demon Hunter is a real thing. It's a real band. It breathes. It's alive, and we wanted to go out and show that to people. And I think the first tour we did that. And with the second album, it was like, wow, so this is like, I'm not in control at all anymore. It's, you know, there's now like 35 tattoos. Kids are writing, people in Iraq are writing to us. It's becoming way bigger than we ever thought. It's something that we can't even control anymore. And to be honest with you, we have such a strong belief that this band is for the fans. Demon Hunter is for every kid out there that listens to this album and gets something out of it. It's become this thing where like we don't ever want to stop. We don't, you know, we can't sing it ever stop. As long as we can control it on when we record and when we tour, I don't see it ever ending. It's something that has kind of spiraled into a beast of its own, and we're so thankful that people get so much out of the music. It's, you know, it's not only like a ministry, it's also just a huge passion for us, and we feel very blessed to be doing Demon Hunter.
This record has a lot of firsts on it for Demon Hunter. I think it has something for people that might not have saw Demon Hunter a certain way and might have thought, I wish Demon Hunter was more technical. I wish they had, you know, breakdowns. I wish they kind of went a little further with the electronic thing or anything like that. Went, you know, kind of had like some acoustic stuff, some even, you know, mellower stuff or like some extra songs or anything like that. This record, I think, for the first time fulfills all those needs and all those, like, you know, if anyone ever wanted a little bit more from Demon Hunter, I think this record kind of spans that whole gamut of like different things. There's like some breakdowns on this record that are like really, you know, just straightforward breakdowns, like hardcore style breakdowns, and then there's like real metal riffage, like old school metal leads and stuff like that. And I think it's like, I think people are going to be surprised by hearing that kind of stuff from us, but also like really stoked and like really fulfilled that like we actually, you know, came through with something like that for this one.